I've lived here since 1991, and I've seen a lot of changes. One of the things that has happened is that we've seen more people on the street, we've seen less money for schools, and I would like to change that. Right now, we have accomplished something as a city that we have not had for a decade, and that is that there are no homeless camps within the municipality of Anchorage Bowl. And I'm going to continue doing this good work, building on the strengths that we have insofar as our ability to get people into transitional housing, get them into treatment, and I'm also interested in supporting our public safety officers that work with these homeless people every day and are part of the solution. I want to keep these professionals and our teachers here in Anchorage working, and I have been knocking doors since I ran for Senate. Over 10,000 doors in the last 4 years, and what I hear from people is our public employees need a pension. Thank you.
Mr. Donley? And you have, I think you have your own microphone there. The voice of the hillside dove.
Okay, is it working, guys? Good, okay. So, I'm Dave Donley. I was born here. I've lived in Midtown, this district that I'm running in my entire life. 16 years represented in the state legislature, 6 years as the representative from Spooner, 10 years as the senator from Midtown. Co-chaired the Senate Finance Committee, vice-chaired the Senate Finance Committee, chaired the House Judiciary Committee, chaired the House Labor and Commerce Committee twice. Brought tremendous amount of funding home to Anchorage when I was a legislator. I've got some flyers around here that say what I did accomplished when I was there. Increased education funding every year. I was co-chair of finance while actually reducing overall spending. In fact, my year as co-chair of finance was the third lowest per capita spending year in Alaska state history. As vice chair, I was there for the two lowest per capita spending year when the oil went down to $8 a barrel. My point is that I've worked with this kind of budget crisis before and successfully.
I'm going to start with a speed round to warm up the questions, and I'm going to ask you to raise your hand high for a yes and to keep it down low for a no. But the first question is, have you ever lived in a home on well and septic? Raise your hand if it's yes. Okay. Have you read the Hillside District Plan? Raise your hand if it's a yes. Okay. If you believe assembly work will average more than 30 hours per week, raise your hand for yes. If you believe the mayor is doing a good job, raise your hand for yes. Question for Mr. Donley. You are finishing your third term on the school board. What do you consider to be your signature achievement over that time on the school board?
For over 20 years, the Anchorage School District had a no retention policy. That meant nobody flunked. Even if the parents, the student, the principal, the teachers, the counselors all agreed it was in the best interest of that student to be held back a grade, didn't happen, couldn't happen. There was a policy against it. I took that on. I sponsored a change in the policy for the Anchorage School District to change that to what's in the best interest of the student. Now that's the existing policy. So if it's in the best interest of that student, they can be held back if it's agreed by all those groups and the parents that it's the best thing for that student. This has proven very successful in outside school districts. It's really important because what happens if you just graduate kids that can't read and do math every year? You have graduates that can't read and do math. So that's my proudest achievement on the school board because I really turned things around. Also got bonds amended. I did amendments to bonds to increase the safety of our elementary schools and more highly prioritize that because we really need to make sure our schools are safe.
Question for Ms. Park. The hillside is characterized by single-family homes on lot an acre or more. Recent code changes now allow up to 3 units on a lot. Do you support this change? And if so, why? And if not, why not?
I do support the change. I believe there are a lot of homeowners that can benefit from having an accessory dwelling unit or perhaps making an in-law apartment. Speaking for myself, I have a home that's quite large, and it would be to my benefit to be able to use the more streamlined codes to separate the downstairs from the upstairs. And I think there are a lot of people, especially in the older age group on the hillside, that do have very large homes, that they're empty nesters, and there is a potential for them having some income as well as increasing housing availability in the area.
Thank you. Mr. Donley, do you support the Anchorage school tax levy? Why? And if not, why not?
I'm going to vote for it because the school district needs the money. It's a desperate situation right now. 350 teachers will be laid off in this budget if we don't have additional funding. 150 staff. These are catastrophic cuts that are going to change the way Anchorage's schools work and exist. So I personally have made a choice to vote for it. Now I can understand why people are upset about it because it shouldn't have been handled the way it was. It wasn't an emergency. We knew it was coming. It should have been processed in the normal budget process of the municipality. But myself, recognizing the crisis the school district's put itself in over the last few years, I'm going to vote for it.
Ms. Parker, the most covered issue of the last few months has been reduced state financial support, the increase in property tax assessments, proposed 3% sales tax withdrawn in favor of the school property tax levy, and property tax relief, meaning that local government operations should be less reliant on property owners. Where do you see assembly revenue sources changing, if at all, if you are elected to the assembly?
Well, first of all, I think people have to recognize that 20 years ago, the state of Alaska gave the city 50% or close to 50% of the money for its operating costs. Right now, they give us less than 5%. I approve of the levy because, as Mr. Donley said, we're in an emergency situation. We're closing schools. We have high class size, student-to-teacher ratios. And many of you probably saw in Indiana this week that the 2 teachers who were teachers of the year, this year and last year, are leaving because they can't afford to work here and live here. The previous property tax, or sales tax, excuse me, of 3% was ill-advised because the property tax relief would not have been much, according to the ICER report, and 40% of Anchorage homeowners, only 40% would have been eligible for that. So we do have to look at new revenue sources, and I am open to working towards that.
Mr. Donley, the main source of Anchorage revenue has become property taxes, and assessed property tax valuations have become controversial this year, even more so. Do you support adopting a sales tax of any sort to provide property tax relief? And if so, how do you address the burden on small business? And if not, how do you address the burden on property tax owners?
Well, there are only about 8 parts to that question, weren't there? Well, first let me say, overall...
Let me say the microphone is yours for the next minute.
Okay. Overall, Alaska is blessed with a constitution that prohibits designated funds. Thank goodness we have that, because it allows lawmakers to make rational decisions on what's the highest and best and most important thing to budget for. We've lost that ability in Anchorage because of so many designated funds. This tax goes to that tax goes to this. As we move forward, we need general taxation and not so many specifically designated taxes, so that when the time comes that we have to, tighten our belts, that we can rationally do that. We'll have the flexibility to do that and not be locked into specific things, going to specific taxes, paying for specific things. First thing we need to do is make government fully accountable and functioning as efficiently as possible before we look at new taxes.
Ms. Park, name 2 additional actions that you believe the Assembly should be taking to advance the goal of increasing housing and making rents more affordable.
So one of the goals, as we talked about earlier, is the street dwelling units. And that has possibility to open up housing. A lot of new proposed housing projects, I think, are too far out to make a significant difference right now. One of the things that bothers me is that when people talk about new construction, most of that is not going to be available to new homeowners who are at an entry level and don't have a lot of money for a down payment. I have heard some discussion about a property tax abatement of $25,000 for first-time homeowners, new first-time homeowners. That, I think that's a possibility, and it's time to stop.
Mr. Donley, I'm going to ask you the same question. Name 2 additional actions the Assembly should be taking to advance the goal of increasing housing and making rents more affordable.
Well, first of all, I disagree with the Assembly's attacks on R1 zoning. This threatens the value of our homes. It's really important that we protect our neighborhoods. And if you just wipe out R1 zoning and allow people to build 3-story apartment buildings with no parking, by the way, in the middle of a neighborhood, that's just outrageous. So I want to protect R1 zoning and prevent that kind of things happening to our established neighborhoods like Rogers Park and College Village. They've turned out overwhelmingly against these ideas from the current Assembly. Amazing, turns out, because they know their very homes are being threatened. But probably the biggest investment the American family typically makes is in your home. And now they're threatening the value of those homes. Also, I've talked to a lot of builders who say our building code is really got a lot of extra stuff in it that may not be necessary. We need to do a top-down assessment of the building code to find out why it's cheaper to build in the Matsu. What are all the things that we're requiring that they don't require, but they still have perfectly good houses there? So we need to do that, and we need to clean up the operation over at the building permit office.
Ms. Park, your website says that you're ready to get to work fighting for vibrant neighborhoods. What makes a neighborhood vibrant?
I think parks and open spaces for kids to play make a neighborhood vibrant. I'm really happy to see that the camps have been abated and made those spaces more available for families to bike and for kids to play and for public events to be held. So that's one very important aspect of a vibrant neighborhood. And also I would say community involvement. I've belonged to my community council since about 2010 or 2011. And unfortunately, over the past few years, the involvement in many of the neighborhoods has fallen off. And I've attended nearly every community council in this Midtown district. And there are only a few of them that have very regular attendance. And I think we need to encourage people to be involved.
Mr. Donley, sticking with land use questions, we see lots of $1 million homes being built on the hillside. Should we instead be encouraging smaller, less expensive homes on the hillside? Or should the municipality of Anchorage even get involved with the types of homes being built and how they are built? Should we let the market decide?
Well, first of all, I want to answer the prior question. I think neighborhood schools are essential to our neighborhoods. They're the most important things in our neighborhoods.
Time out. The reason that I ask you different questions is because the person that answers the question second in order has an advantage over the person that asked the first answer. Could I ask you to answer my question? You'll have a minute to do so, please.
Sure. Okay, I think the free market is important there. I mean, what's the current zoning? When people invested in that land, they invested in the current zoning. I think that should be protected as much as possible. And not just force them to change something they invested in. So I do believe that we can encourage, there are neighborhoods in this town that lend themselves to that kind of residential. Fairview comes to mind. But when we do it, we need to work with that community in a way that they want to see happen, rather than imposing it on any particular neighborhood or area of town.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Park, decreasing populations slows the growth of the tax cap, but the cost of plowing and other basic city functions continue to grow. Is the tax cap working for the good of Anchorage? And if not, how would you change it?
Overall, the tax cap has been working. Unfortunately, now we're faced with a situation where the schools are in an emergency. And so even though the proposed levy does exceed the tax cap, I think we need to make that investment for our schools and to try to keep teachers here. But one of the things that I have found to be very important to people, speaking to all the people at the doors I have knocked, is that they want to have a pension, a defined benefit package that will give people the desire to stay here and make this their home long term. And I think we need to make that investment in the community. And currently there is a bill, HB 78, that is being heard in the Senate. And I've spoken to Chuck Kopp about this, and he is very hopeful that this is going to be passed and that those benefits could be made available to our teachers, our public safety, and our other municipal employees.
Mr. Donley, as someone with a history of public employment and service in various offices, public offices, what additional benefits, if any, do you believe are necessary to maintain a skilled municipal labor force?
First of all, you need to pay people right. I don't believe Americans are paid enough for the productivity that we have nationally as a workforce. When the computerizations occurred and now IT, the value of work should have increased more, and I believe Americans have been left behind in that process. But there are ways to do the collective bargaining process, which I highly respect, to negotiate for improved retirement options. I have advocated for anybody who currently doesn't get Social Security to have the option of being able to return to Social Security through the collective bargaining process. I have advocated for those public employees that don't have access to the supplemental benefit system to be able to negotiate to get back into the supplemental benefit system. I have advocated that to the collective bargaining process, employees that want to improve their pension, their IRAs systems, their Tier 4s, they'd be allowed to negotiate for that also. Those are all viable options instead of a defined benefit system, which we won't pay off the current one. Now, the people will be collecting it until the end of this century. And there's still a huge outstanding state debt based on it.
Ms. Park, have you ridden the bus? What will you do to support transit in South Anchorage bus routes 55 and 83 to serve South Anchorage? Could there be more work done on this?
I have ridden the bus. It's been quite some time. My kids did ride the bus. My son went to East High, and he rode the bus. I support increasing public transit. I think it's something that should be offered. There are many people here that can't afford to own a car, and we're seeing more and more traffic. And to have public transit decreases the amount of traffic and travel time. There's a lot of new business going in, particularly in South Anchorage, that I think would benefit from having a better schedule. And I know that down on Lake Otis, near my house, if you miss the bus, it will be about an hour before the next one comes. I think we can do a little bit better than that, but we need to have people's bodies in the bus, because a full bus and an empty bus costs the same amount to run.
Mr. Donley, on the school board over the past 9 years, there's been times when you've been on the, what I'm going to call the outs with other members. Do you expect that to happen on the assembly?
I hope that there will be a change in the Anchorage Assembly over the next several years that will bring common sense back to the city. I mean, that's what we need. We need focus on the types of services that local government needs to provide to citizens to make the lives of families better in this town. And they've gotten unfocused. And the tax cap is there, and it's good that it's there, but they have broken it on the last 3 taxes that have been adopted, and did not follow the 60% rule. So it's actually been kind of fractured, but it's good that it's there because it's supposed to require 60% to adopt new taxes. So I think the current assembly and city hall have lost their focus on what local government is supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be helping families, it's supposed to be reducing costs for consumers, and there's ways to do that through city government by having an excellent port that's more efficient. That will reduce our consumer good costs. That's the kind of thing that government ought to be working on rather than some of the things they've been off on.
Let me ask, and I'd ask for to let each of the candidates answer without the clapometer, if you will, going on, please, out of respect. Let me ask some hard questions, though. House pets. Ms. Park, do you favor dogs or cats? Second hard question. Mr. Donley, what do you favor for an adult beverage? Red, white, mixed drink, beer, or non-alcoholic?
I kind of like a Roy Rogers. That's a Coke with a little grenadine in it. That's probably my favorite. When I'm splurging and not dieting.
Sticking with you, Mr. Donley, your favorite candy bar?
Oh, my favorite candy bar. Okay, so I was in Australia once, and they have this amazing candy bar called Cherry Ripe. And if you ever get a chance, you've got to try this candy bar. It's amazing. And so when I go to Canada now, I always go in the stores and see if they have it, because it's in the Commonwealth countries are the only places you can get it.
Okay. Ms. Park, your favorite book?
A Prayer for Only Me by John Murphy.
Okay. Mr. Donnelly, your favorite ice cream?
Something that's got dark chocolate in it.
Okay. And ending the hard questions with Ms. Park, your favorite barbecue food, grilling food?
Ribs.
Okay. You will now each have 60 seconds to do your closing, and I forget who led off with the opening. Mr. Donnelly, you're up.
Well, thanks Angela for doing this tonight. It's been a lot of fun. This is my 25th year serving my hometown in elected office. I'm so grateful to be given this opportunity to serve you. I want to continue doing that. I think I've got at least one really good ride left in me here, and I want to deliver what common sense. I want to get back to this city government we used to have when I was growing up here, that provided fundamental services in an efficient manner. I think that's the overall solution and the first step we've got to make in this community. And I've got the experience dealing with incredibly difficult budget decisions to help facilitate that. I think I've gotten proven for being really successful with being smart about public policy and building consensus to get things done. I've been elected now as a Democrat, as a Republican, as a nonpartisan to serve you. I can build bridges and get things done in city government.
Yes, you can.
Okay. Ms. Park, you have 60 seconds.
So I appreciate all of you being here, and I would like to say that I think common sense means not starving our teachers out of the neighborhood. Common sense means not having our police trained at an expense of nearly $2 million apiece to only work here 3 years, and our firefighters to only work here for 3 years when it's costing $1 million to have them trained. The churn, the constant turnover is not good for our community. It's destabilizing. We've just seen a lot of schools be closed, and we've not taken care of our teachers and our public employees the way that we should. I think that the mayor has been doing a good job. I'm very impressed that we have not had any homeless camps here that there has not been a time since a decade ago that we have not had any homeless camps. And my opponent has repeatedly said that there are no results that can be seen. I have pulled up the navigation dashboard with the city, and it shows the results.
Ms. Park, Mr. Donley, thank you very much.